Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This week, we'll talk about Donald Trump and the real estate and the stock markets. Stick with us until the end. You don't want to miss this. Chris, Donald Trump has been reelected as the 47th president of the United States, defeating Kamala Harris and achieving an unexpected political comeback. At 78, he is the oldest person and first convicted criminal to assume the office. His win has raised concerns worldwide, given his unpredictable leadership style and past connections with authoritarian figures like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Despite these issues, many Americans backed him, seeing him as a counter to the political establishment and woke culture. My first question, Chris, is do you believe that his election will have a big impact on the US and Canadian real estate markets?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely do. I think it's going to have differing results here in Canada, depending on whether you're in the East or the West. Because there's a few things that he's very pro that will benefit us.
Exactly. In the West, especially.
In the West. The East, don't know.
And he doesn't like the political establishment in the East at all, in the States or Canada. You know.
Well, yeah, fair enough. And he's vocal about it.
Oh yeah,
you don't mince his words, that boy.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna. I think it's going to be interesting for us here in the West, particularly. I think there's going to be some massive opportunities that may or may not culminate depending on where our political sides go and the rules, regulations, regulatory bodies, everything that affects that side of it. It's going to be interesting. The next few years here are going to be very, very interesting.
Yep. I want to show you this. This election has shown the will of the people. A lot of experts say that, they use the will of the people has spoken, So Trump won 312 to 226. We call this a landslide. And what is very, very unusual, let's say, it's that he also won the popular vote by 3 million votes. And as a Republican, is the second one in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
The last one was Bush after 9/11, who won the popular vote as a Republican. I believe 2001 or 2 or whatever that time. But other than that, there's no Republicans that they never get the popular vote, So this a lot of experts says that because he got the popular vote, he will be even more vocal, like you said, and probably the vocal will transform in actions. What do you think?
He likes a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
And he will turn negative attention as though it is positive. So yeah, I can't even imagine what must be going through his head right now with that popular vote as well. He's going to be unbearable. It's going to be interesting. I mean, he was the greatest, everything, the best prior, but it'll be interesting. But I do think though, and I'm not necessarily anti-Trump, but I'm definitely not pro-Trump. But I think the people have spoken, and I think that is absolutely true. Like enough is enough in multiple ways where people are willing to give up certain things that they hold true and dear to themselves in order to see other things not happen. And I do think the Democrats went just way too far in the wishy-washy, way too far on the Like you say, woke.
Yeah.
Like it has gotten a little ridiculous where
Yeah.
kids can be cats. I'm a cat at
True.
school, and
It's
so we're
true.
gonna be, yeah. Like, I think it's enough. Enough is enough for a lot of people. And even things like the illegal immigrants. I mean, yeah, they have come into the country illegally. That is affecting things. I don't necessarily know that we should be putting everybody in cages. But to just say it's not a problem because he says it is a problem is not an answer to the problem. And the people want answers. At the end of the day, I think Americans particularly, they like a powerful figure.
Yeah.
They want somebody who's going to jump in there and take control. And in the absence of the feeling of that, they'll go to whatever they have to do in order to get that feeling. You can't be wishy-washy and be a leader of that country.
No.
This one maybe a little bit more, but not that one. People won't stand for it.
Yeah. I agree with you. Me neither. I'm not that pro or against Trump. I believe that people realized that a lot of the left-leaning Democrats or New Democrats or liberals, whatever you want to call them, they lean too much at the left, at the point of people feeling justified calling their side communists.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So then after that point, it becomes so much polarized that I believe he played that. He did that with this reason, to become so polarized so people will see the truth. The truth in a sense that like a lot of people would say we want to encourage a lot of things that the left wants, including their social programs. But where our countries are right now is at the point that someone economically sound has to lead that country and has to lead the Western world. And that would not be Biden or Harris.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a bit of a tough call on that one, really, at the end of the day, because I don't think their economy was doing too horribly. In fact, I think it was quite positive in a number of senses, but it wasn't necessarily positive in the right areas. Like a lot of these swing states are largely manufacturing, for example. They are productivity-driven states. The people there, the voting people there, weren't seeing these economic pluses that maybe the country as a whole was seeing, because it wasn't being seen in those very specific places. So
yeah, or the gains that we saw in Wall Street, because basically what went up was assets, which is real estate. Let's say real estate assets, of course, factories, companies, but mostly it's financial, right?
Yeah.
Which is stocks, Wall Street, the banks, and the real estate. Yeah. So that's was really good. I understand, but not everyone has a house, $2 million in a Wall Street account, and a plane or whatever, and a big asset.
Yeah. Well, and just speaking of that, I think that's one of the things that the American people, I think, largely voted him in to see a greater economy, greater buying power. They won't feel the inflationary risks, that have been associated with the past number of years here, which could very much end up being the opposite. Because when you go very pro big business, very pro stock market, that typically leads to higher inflation.
Yeah.
So they might have exactly the opposite of what they're kind of voted him in for. That'll be, unless you're a CEO of a very large company or do very well in the stock market, and have your big home, in which case, you're going to benefit. So,
of course, because you have assets. I was listening to a trader yesterday or 3 days ago, and he was saying he's a guy, an old guy that has a lot of experience. I don't know, 89 years old. So he said that's his opinion. So I want to talk about this, see if you agree. He said that there's always the same thing when a Democrat or Republican comes in. The Democrat will print money, spend money, and bring chaos, and the markets go up. And a Republican will come in, will cut on the social programs. They will stop printing money. The inflation will go up. I don't know why he said that in that order, and the recession will follow. So, in his opinion, we will have a recession because Trump will cut a lot of spending. You remember Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy? They were named for the Dodge, the Department of Government Efficiency. Mm-hmm. So they have to cut out of the $6,500, so $6,500 billion budget. They have to cut $2,000 billion. So that's $2 trillion per year. They have to cut. You understand? So let's see what that does. I don't have that much experience to remember the history, 80 years of history, but I'm really curious to see what will happen. And I just want to add that Trump will be the first president to serve non-consecutive terms since Grover Cleveland, who was in office from 1885 to 1889. And from 1893 to 1897. So when people say this is the biggest political comeback in American history or modern American history, I believe the word modern, because it's after 1900, this was the biggest victory, man, the biggest political comeback of probably of our lives. And let's see what he'll do in the States concerning the housing market. Okay, so one of the points he said, we're going to open up tracts of federal land and housing construction because we desperately need housing for people who can't afford what's going on right now. That's another thing, that we talked about why people voted for him. Housing. In the States, I heard it's less. So it's better. Here in Canada, it's worse than what's going on in the United States. But so he's going to have to do something. And that's one of his solutions. So federal land for housing construction. Remember, Trudeau also said that. Mm-hmm. And Poilievre also supports that, to sell crown land, federal land for housing. What do you think that if Trump does it and maybe Poilievre will be elected and he will do it too? Do you believe that this will be a big impact on the real estate market, building housing on federal land?
So I don't really think that the land is going to be so much the issue for us or for them. Really, at the end of the day, there's select pockets where it actually, I think, would make a difference. But I think it's more about the efficiency. Uh-huh. Like you bring up the terms productivity a lot.
Productivity.
Like you think about what it takes to build a house. You work 8 hours a day. You're probably 10 hours a day. We're very seasonal. Being efficient at home building in the middle of winter in Canada, particularly, pretty dang tough. We've got natural resources that go into everything. We don't, in that industry, we don't use a lot of things that are modern technology, which I guess is one of those things that, like the smart homes and 15-minute cities and all that stuff is trying to integrate it a little bit more. But why aren't Amazon has a warehouse here that is gigantic. You used to be able to buy homes off the Sears catalog. And this goes back a while. It goes back before me. I'm not that old. But I mean, that used to be a thing, right? Like,
but certainly after the 1900s.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Right, exactly. So, but why isn't more of this, like, why isn't more being put into that sector of it? Now, a guy like Elon Musk, I could see ramping something like that up pretty strongly. Who knows what those things would look like? It'd be pretty interesting to view. But yeah, I don't think land or even necessarily the economy of the land is the big thing. I think it's just the productivity. You know, you want more homes built, get better at building homes, get more efficient at it, run shifts. And if you're going to take out all the people that are, shouldn't say all the people, but if a large segment of the people that are working in that industry through your immigration changes, you're going to have some other effects on that are going to be pretty negative too. So, I mean, we may not need quite as much because a lot of people are going to be moving. Here in Canada, we're probably looking at a negative population growth over the next 3 years, which has been an extremely far cry from what we've had over the past 3 years. But yeah, I mean, land, it's good, it's great, but I think the immigration is going to have a bigger part of it, and I think just some sort of efficiencies of scale in the production of this stuff is going to be much more important.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. You explained very well. And this is exactly what you said. I was reading. So, for instance, Trump has talked about enacting a mass deportation of immigrants in the U.S. Okay, by doing so, might lead to higher building costs, obviously, because illegal immigrants tend to be paid less, as the construction industry depends on immigrant labor. So, but in the same time, that will also, I believe that they will bring prices down because there will be less demand, right? So there's like a knife, you know, like on both sides. The labor will cost higher, but in the same time, you'll have less demand.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and actually, let's talk about that for a second. Then, if you don't mind, jump a little bit, but the tariffs, bad for the East, good for the West, I think. Once again, building materials, steel, I don't like the multitudes of things that we export into the States that will or will not be affected by these tariffs that he's talking about. Who knows? You know, he's master of negotiation. He wrote a book on it.
The art of the deal.
Yeah, right. So could be just talking about it to gain votes. Could be using it as a bargaining chip. Who knows? So maybe these tariffs won't happen. If they do, it's definitely going to affect our inflation
exactly
rates and our dollar. Our dollar is going to be affected. No two ways around it. Flip side of that, though, it's like when you put tariffs on things, so that has been the staple, you know, kind of going back to the Ronald Reagan days. Make America great again. This is not his phrase.
Exactly. It's exactly. Reagan, I know that. He registered, though. Trump registered it as a trademark. Businessman.
Yeah, that and you're fired, right?
Yeah.
So when you bring in those sort of policies, though, which are good for the economy, stimulate manufacturing, you know, hit to that middle America again, but you're increasing costs of goods coming in because the States is not going to build it as cheap as China. I don't care what you're looking at, what you're talking about. The States is not going to do it as cheap as China. Neither is Canada. So now you've got massive tariffs coming in on all of those things, Canada, China, all these other places, and they're trying to limit the amount and, you know, built in America, made in America, you know, that bringing that whole thing in again, that increases your inflationary costs. That increases costs to build homes. You know, our wood going to the States, non-energy energy items, which I think are
Yeah,
You know,
mainly he will target softwood and steel
Yeah.
from Canada.
yeah,
Usually that's
that's
what
going
he
to affect
does.
their building costs.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll affect what we can put out to them as far as our exporting. You know, so I'm like, at the end of the day, if that all affects our GDP in a very negative way, our dollars, you know, decreasing,
Yeah,
GDP goes down. GDP is basically, you know, population growth and productivity. Our productivity goes down because our dollar is down because we can't afford to manufacturing goods.
yeah,
You know, we can't afford machinery and everything else, or it's less affordable. Productivity goes down. We're now looking at negative population growth over the next few years because of our changes to the immigration policy as well, which I think were needed. But once again, because of very reactionary policies by the government, extreme reactionary policies. And it does feel to me a lot like that's the path that they're going on as well. We go one direction, they go the other, but both are very, very reactionary and very strong. That's a heck of a task that Elon Musk and his boys have down there to cut that down.
yeah,
It'll be great for the stock market in the short term. It'll be great for the economy in the short term.
yeah.
Long term, like you said, you start cutting things out. That starts to have negatives again too.
Exactly.
The cycle really is going like this.
Oh yeah. Because,
Really.
but you understand exactly because let's say they will cut, I don't know, 100 billion out of one ministry, whatever. So then the stock market will reward that a little bit or more. I'm not expert. They know that. Okay, they are the experts. We just follow and read what's happening, and then you invest on that. You know. But there are very, very intelligent people that will reward or punish whatever the market is doing, right? But after that period, you can't cut 100 billions every year or every month. It's like you expend it so well. After a year or two, then that's it. So then it will be judged on performance, not only for cutting on, cutting the fat. Like, you understand? Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see the next 4 years will be amazing. So
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
it's definitely going to be interesting.
So let's talk about Wall Street now. So we know that Trump has a pro stock market stance, and this guy, Jeremy Siegel, says that Trump is the most pro stock market president in history. Okay, which is a very big thing to say, because usually, like we talked, it's the Democrats who are pro banks and pro stock market. Okay, usually Republicans were more like freedom of expression, religion, small business, army. So to say that Donald Trump is the most pro stock market president in history, it's a good thing. And as a confirmation, so the day following his election, the S&P 500 and Dow Jones reached new heights. They're the highest they've been, and they've jumped massively. For an example, S&P 500 jumped 120 points at the opening, which is pretty big. That's an index. Indexes don't move that much. They can move 30, 40, 50 points, 60 points in the day.
And that's
70, big. 80, it's a big day. It's too much volatility, too much up and down. But to open at 120 something points in a few seconds, that's a big confirmation. We also had like stocks like Tesla, who surged 29% the next day. Right now, it's even higher, because the day of the election was at 288, and now it's like 340 or something. So that's Musk's. company. Then the other thing that he wants to do is to cut taxes. Right here is the index. See, right here.
That's a big jump, man.
Oh man, see, boom. Yeah. So the another thing that he wants to do is cutting taxes. He ran on cutting taxes, and so he expects to be extended to more than just his base. Okay, he wants to also cut taxes from 21.5% to 15% on goods, companies, on company income tax, on goods that are produced in the States. So if you do business, let's say you I don't know, you build your motorcycle Harley here, at the end of the year you'll be taxed 15%. If you buy a Kawasaki from another country, then your profits at the end of the year will be taxed 21.5%. Do you believe, Chris, that this will bring a lot of manufacturing companies back to the States?
No. Honestly, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, frankly, but no, I don't think
no, but a feeling. I'm not an expert as well, on
well, my gut is just no, because long term, you're a major, maybe in some of these small companies, where it could make a difference short term, but in the longer term, looking major corporations, who will definitely be benefiting from lower tax rates. So yes, it invites people to come back in. How long is that going to last? How long can it last?
Yeah.
If you're going to reduce your taxes, reducing your income, how long can you sustain that? We did the same thing here, just in a different way. We just spent more and then tried to charge more. Either way, though, you got less money coming in, you got less money to go out. You got more money going out, you need more money to come in. It's I don't know. It's for major corporations to move their manufacturing to the States, they got to have some sort of either short-term massive gains, and I mean massive gains, or assurances that those are going to be long-term holdouts. And I think it's the long-term holdouts that are going to be lacking. It's a big gamble to be moving a large percentage of your manufacturing into the States and out of places like China, Indonesia. You know what I mean? Like it's cheap to do it there. It is. It's just cheap.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. I think in theory, it's great. I just don't know if it'll actually culminate, or how much. I shouldn't say that. How much of it will culminate? Will it be enough? How did it work in Reagan's era? Like what were the actual longer term results of that? I'd be really interested in kind of going back historically and checking that out, because he very much follows by the Reagan playbook.
Yeah, it's true.
Politically.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah.
So let's continue with the trumped up growth and spending in Canada. see what can happen with the Canadian real estate. So the main points that I got from reading this article is that there is a risk. So the rising US bond yields and economic activity, which is higher in the States. We talked about this with the GDP and production at large in the past podcasts. So that could pressure Canada's fixed mortgage rates to stay high in 2025, the fixed mortgage rates.
Yeah.
So I just want to take your point on that. Do you believe that because of that and because of the economic pressure, the rates will stay higher in Canada than they would if someone else was elected?
So, well, and that becomes a little bit of, so I was watching an economist this morning, Korea's economist, the Canadian Real Estate Associations. And he was talking, like we've actually talked about a number of times in the past, about the number of mortgages that are coming up for renewal next year.
Next year.
It's
80%.
right?
80%.
Huge. They have to be lower for that. But
80% of 2025, 2026. I just want to say that because in the next 2 years will be like more than 1 million. But next year will be close to 800,000.
Like it's a ton, man. And from much lower rates.
And those are the people who bought like 1.2, 1.5, 1.9, 1.8, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was a different, I wonder how much would change if they saw what was coming up. But we've seen the massive interest rate reductions.
Yep.
Because of that, they've started to make amends. They've got to make some changes. So I think they've been planning for that, for some major reductions to accommodate that. But then, now we've got on the other side here, we are, for our fixed rate mortgages, we are very much tied to the US bonds.
Yeah,
exactly. Train tracks, right? Like they change, we change, they change, we change. So
that's the article. Yeah.
So, okay. So if that happens, then we got, one downward force and we got one upward force or at least neutral force. Well, what wins? Like honestly, what happens? Or did the rates stay up and then the government has to step in with some other sort of intervention to keep our economy from tanking because of the housing, because of, that's a lot of foreclosures that could be coming up. That's a lot of people that are going to be paying out the vast majority of their income into their housing to a degree that they did not see coming. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know which way that one's going to go now. I felt very confident, a month ago that our interest rates were going to be dropping and dropping heavily.
Me too. Remember, we talked about this.
No.
Not so much now, eh?
Now it's a little more up in the air. Now it is definitely a little more up in the air. And I think it's important to realize too that when the Bank of Canada reduces their rate, that doesn't directly affect fixed rates. That affects variable rates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you talk about the fixed rates right now. People there is a difference, obviously. So, Chris, the US has a shortage of 4 million homes, which is a little bit lower than us, I believe. But they are almost 10 times our population.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's 5 million in Canada that are missing. I think that's what we did, right?
It was 3 million by 2030, but that's 3 million additional to what we're already.
Oh, additional. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the same range, right?
Yeah.
But they are 10 times the population. You see how desperate the situation is in Canada. When we talk about what will happen in the States, what would happen in the States, and we have like a problem 10 times higher, So one of the things that he looks to do, other than the mass deportation, and immigration policies, so the mass deportation and immigration policies could reduce the construction labor force, where 31% are immigrants. Yeah. We talked about this like in the beginning of the podcast. But I didn't say that.
Not necessarily illegal immigrants.
No, not necessarily illegal. No. No. Of course, I came from Romania, so a lot of Romanian friends, when they came here, either they go construction or trucking.
Right.
So they are legal immigrants, Yeah. The experts believe that will lead to labor shortages and higher wages, which is not that bad for the people. But what's worse than now, that might cause delayed projects, right? Mm-hmm. And one solution that, in his opinion, will make a big difference. He wants to reduce regulation. right? Like the Republicans running, we cut your taxes and we cut the red tape. The same here in Alberta, right? No, less
Yeah.
taxes, less red tape. That's that.
Yeah.
I heard that over and over and over again, which is a conservative value.
Mhm.
So uh, Trump aims to cut regulation and permit requirements when you build stuff to lower construction costs, potentially reducing home prices by eliminating 24 to 41% of costs from regulatory burdens. You remember we looked at the $600,000 that it costs in BC,
Yeah, I was just thinking
and I show you the article
yeah.
because of all the upgrades and the permits and the bureaucracy. So he says that he will cut regulation drastically, and that will drop prices. What do you believe, Chris? Will that happen?
So there's some definite benefits to cutting out red tape on that stuff. However, we here in Calgary have cut out a whole bunch of red tape with regulations that is now the latest rumor is our zoning changes are going to be taught because of the general revolts of it. So and I mean, I guess that becomes a bit of a question: is what are the side effects, the unintended side effects of some of these policies, where then looser regulations also means people who live in communities, and particularly higher equity communities, is there a divergence in there?
Yeah.
Is it here is good to build whatever, here we're going to be super strict. Here, when it's brought in, are we going to do whatever we can to fight this, to bring it back in? Because it's great for us to look at the economy and the housing and the people as a whole. But what matters most to me is this home right here that I live in, and making sure that it's not really easy for a multifamily to go next door to me. How much of it gets affected by that? I think it'll be good. I think less red tape in general is good, but I think there's always the downside to it as well. And there is, I don't know, we saw a hell of a revolt here in Calgary when they were trying to do that. Now, bit of a different systemic behind it. I mean, they're looking at just multifamily, very small dwellings all over the place, and there's massive amounts of problems with that whole build up, not out, tiny condo, 1-bedroom living mentality. I heard a stat. I don't know if it's true or not. I heard a stat that the number one the immigration age coming into the West here is 0. I didn't have a clue what the guy was talking about when he was saying it. But it's basically people who live in places like Toronto, in small condominiums, I shouldn't say less red tape, but just the smaller multifamily and the other ways of combating housing shortages. They get married.
Yeah.
They have a kid. You can't live in a 1-bedroom anymore.
Of course you can.
Everything we're building here now is not single family detached. It's not even attached. Like the purpose-built rentals is by far and wide the biggest thing that's being built out there everywhere. And then second to that is apartment style condos, and those apartment style condos being largely driven by the government cutting red tape and making fast builds, multi-builds as appealing to the developers as possible, and the developers looking at trying to cram as many units into one spot. All of these things lead to a systemic problem that's going to be coming down the road. Like who's going to be buying these things down the road?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know what I mean? Like they don't want to live like that with a family.
Nope.
The 15-minute city is going to be a bit of a tough sell for families. Sorry, that was
it will be a tough
podcast
sell.
we're talking about, but
Yeah. And when you say with the Calgary, you're talking about the blanket rezoning, like allowing single to multi. Yeah.
Do you know who benefits from that?
What are the benefits?
Short-term developers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Making money quick. Cram as much into there as you can. Sell them off, and just take your money and go.
Yeah.
And maybe eventually change your business model, because it can't sustain itself for too long. But
of course, yeah.
So a little divergence there from the less red tape, but
I want to show you something, Chris. This is in French, but this is what they did after when in Quebec there was, I don't know if Canada also, but in Quebec there was a big crisis when people were coming back from the war.
Right.
Okay.
Veterans.
So those were called veteran homes, Maison de Vétérans, which was a solution that Quebec adopted in 43. So they say between 1939 and 1945, they were missing 35,000 homes. So they start building those type of homes. Okay, look at them.
Yeah, the wartime houses.
Wartime houses, exactly. So they probably it was here too as well. And so they built homes for 620,000 soldiers, and they were the price was between $2,000 and $3,000 back then, which is 20,000 to 40,000 of today. So why not this kind of solution? I heard a lot of noise about this in the past months, that they want to build on federal land, the same. You remember the cookie cutter homes, like the same, like this one, wartime homes, one floor, the same division, the same material, same and everything, and build them. And I believe that we should too. It's to build single homes on a small lot. Okay, we don't need 20,000 square feet, but probably 3, 4, 5,000. To have a backyard, because we are in Canada, after all, the second largest country in the world, and we have the lowest housing per capita of the G7. It's anyway. We're not going to go there again, but I'm just saying, why not this kind of solution? Yeah, because we're coming back. Policies, it's the same stuff. Policies, the 10 years of bad policies. This is what you get. But why not? And see, you were right, because the company was called La Société Wartime Housing.
Right.
That was the name.
Yeah.
See? Here.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, they've always been known as wartime houses. Why? And you know what? I think with the innovations that have been happening over the last, we've got a very different mentality here in our not just our youth, but us as a society.
Yeah.
Between now and way back when that was going on, though, too. We don't have granite or quartz countertops and like all the bells and whistles and the prettiest things here. We're pretty dang ticked off and not settling. Whereas, back then you put in sweat equity is not a term that exists anymore.
Yeah.
It isn't, right? So I don't think that sort of thing would work today to satisfy the young generation. And I've had multiple conversations with the young generation who's just saying, I don't think I'll ever be able to afford my own home now. It's ridiculous. And to a very large extent, they're right. So they wouldn't settle for that type of house. They wouldn't. But the flip side of that is, with modern innovations, productivity, the things that are going on, they probably could do those where, and fairly affordably. They're pretty dang nice.
Yeah.
The courts of today, that I've been a realtor for a number of years, 17, 18 years. I've been in construction, more do it yourself than anything else, but a little bit formally and a whole lot informally. I couldn't tell you the difference between a granite and a quartz countertop anymore, because those quartz countertops look just like the real thing. In fact, some of those, not composite, the plastic countertop.
Yeah.
Name escapes me. Dang, that stuff's pretty dang convincing now. Even to the touch, like with the innovations, they might actually be able to put some homes together that look pretty dang good, that you would actually want to have a pride of ownership behind.
Of course. I'm not saying to build like on empty walls and that's it, nothing ugly and small. No, you can build like, let's say a 30 by 40, which is not huge, and that will give you 1,200 feet. You can have 3 good bedrooms.
Yeah,
and you can have your quartz countertops.
Well,
and engineer wood if you want to.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, some of the building materials. I saw a thing the other day here on the 2x4 replacements, basically, which is press board 2x4s. Just sounds crazy, but they say it's just by far more superior product, and it's better ecologically in a number of ways as well. I think the fabricated homes are going to gain popularity.
That's my point that I want to talk about next. Yeah, of
course.
course.
It just makes sense, right?
It makes sense. Plus, in Canada, it makes even more sense, especially at minus 50 for like 2 months. It's better to build it inside for the long term. You know what I'm saying?
When I first moved to Calgary, I got a job in construction. I was working with sheet metal applications. So we did like sheet metal sidings and all that sort of stuff. We actually worked on the penitentiary here. Mm-hmm. I remember being on a job site where it took me 2 hours to put in one screw because it was so cold, and I had the big gloves on, and I was literally forced to work out there in that. You want to talk about low productivity? And I'll tell you right now, I don't want to go back to that. Be doing that in a warehouse, nice and cozy, nice heated.
Yeah.
Put stuff with
some music,
right? Like, okay, exactly. Well, that suddenly sounds
you can relax. You can relax. You don't have to watch for like accidents, on the site, the construction site.
Mm.
You have your own spot in the factory, and you make it your own. Yeah.
Well, and I mean the reality that too is, because it's not an on-site build anymore. And you've got things that are being to the exact same one. That wall is going to be the exact same. Well, that's now you're operating the button that operates the arm.
Exactly.
That does all this, right?
Exactly, because it will have automation. That's a very good point. And you don't have to do it with a basement. You understand? Like a big basement with a high ceiling of a basement with a high windows. With bricks and all that, you can have like at 6, 7, 8 feet inside the earth, so you can have your footing there, so you won't freeze, and you can have only a cement slab, concrete slab, very strong concrete slab. And that's it. You just come there, you put the walls, tung, that's it, the prefabricated walls. And probably will take, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days to finish it. Of course, not inside, but at least you don't have to freeze for 3 weeks or 4 weeks out, to finish the outside and the roof.
Well, it's amazing how much of the interior is even finished in these. We have a friend who bought one as their second home cabin. Mm-hmm. Dang, I'll tell you, man, it was nice. Like, I was shocked. I was really shocked. And talking to them about how some of the construction went on and, how it actually came, shocked.
I want to show you. There's a company in Quebec, which is called Maison Bonneville. So they build. See, they have multi.
Yeah.
And they have which is cabin homes, single homes, and signature series. So that's probably luxury. But when you go to their showroom, their homes are so beautifully built.
Yeah.
I would buy a home like that because I know how it is built. It's the same build. It's not built on a Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So look at those, okay? So those are prefabricated homes, man.
That is pretty amazing and pretty stunning.
Yeah, and it's so fast to put it to build it. So yeah, that can be a solution. See, you don't believe this is like a prefabricated home?
No. Yeah, not in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it really does. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ironically, too, people who buy new tend to think it's going to come out perfect. And to our answer in the trade has typically been, well, it's not built in a warehouse. You know what I mean? Like, it's not built in a plant. You can't expect perfection from these things.
Oh, of course.
But these are built in a plant.
Yeah.
So you do now have a lot more precision going in there. So you might actually be able to expect a little bit more as far as the quality goes.
Yeah. Chris, I want to end out with the a subject that caught my attention and also my empathy because of this this housing crisis and immigration crisis. There is a concern that rising suicides among Indian students happen here in Canada. Okay, I heard that on a few websites, and according to Statistics Canada, the country experienced around 4,500 suicides annually.
Wow.
Okay, of the Indian people.
So, sorry, the country experience as in Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
That's insane.
So with recent changes in immigration policies and the mounting pressures of living abroad, an alarming number of Indian students are turning to suicide. So, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to talk about it by respect, and also to at one point something has to happen, because I'm saying we have to look ourselves in a mirror, and instead of being the Mr. Nice Guy every time as Canadians, to realize that we impact our lives, but also the lives of others that come here with big hopes. Imagine the Indian student who says and talks about for years, I was accepted, I'm going to Canada, the Canadian dream, the best country in the world, the best passport in the world. And they arrive here and they have to, you told me that story with the Calgary 15 bedrooms in a home, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they arrive here. I'm not saying those are Indians there, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends and a lot of contacts. That's what's happening. Mm-hmm. They arrive here and they are obliged to work for like $14, $15 an hour, not necessarily studying, and live in a one bedroom paying $800-900. You understand? That's not the Canadian dream. And I'm going to finish with this. This is a tragedy that this happens, and we seem to continue with this attitude. So, do you think that by having a person elected that thinks more about the the people. He says that. Let's see if it's true. But that was his message. The people has to have better condition, better jobs, better housing. Do you believe that with this, the whole immigration system in the States and in Canada will change for good?
I don't know if it'll change for good, but I know it's got to change. I do think those changes have started to happen already, so I'm not sure if we're spinning or not. I do think those changes are for the better. You want to increase your economy, you want to increase your gross domestic product, like we said, population growth, productivity. It's just not smart to just be inviting unbelievable amounts of people over here so that you can build up a bit of a fake economy and sell people a bill of goods and create an environment where businesses are set up to capitalize on that whole thing. Like I can't remember what they were called, the fake schools, basically, the quasi schools.
Yeah, diploma mills. Diploma mills.
Left, right, and center. Yeah, right. And then go over there, recruit like crazy, sell the Canadian
exactly,
dream.
exactly. I'm not saying that's like the immigrants' fault or whatever. I'm not trying to put a fault on someone. We have to wake up. A better life. Exactly, everyone wants a better life, and Canada is built by immigrants. You know, we all immigrants here. It depends on when we came.
Yeah, fair.
But it's a tragedy to see this happening. And to see that Canada lost that aura of the best country in the world and the freest country in the world. It just went to, I'm not going to say where.
It is a sad statistic that you just threw up in front of us. Yeah. But it is the unintended consequences of, in my opinion, reactionary policies. Trying to make things look better instead of making them better.
Yeah. Fake people do that. Fake people want to make things look better. Play a role instead of focusing on the right things to do. It's true.
No.
Chris,
man, do I government bash a lot in this. I never realized just how much pent up feelings. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a against the government show, you know.
It wasn't intended. Unintended consequences.
Exactly. No, you know, governments, you know, of course, obviously they are there. We need governments. But we need good policies, man. You know, is it too much to ask? You know, Chris, I'm exactly for the long term. Exactly. I did everything, Chris, that I had here for us today as information. Do you have something else to add?
Just as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you and the folks that are watching.
Yeah, me too. I'm very happy to do this every week. And we'll do this next week. So I would like to say thank you to our listeners for watching and for your support. And we see you guys next week. Ciao.